Hi everybody, this is Vicky from vickycharles.com and you're listening to my podcast. You can find notes from this and my other podcasts at vickycharles.com/podcast. As many of you will know, I'm actually in the process of moving my notes over from singlemotherahoy.com, but eventually all of my notes will be available on vickycharles.com, so do go and have a look. This week's podcast is all about Instagram and 5 top tips to help you make the most out of it. Now, I've done a few blog posts about this in the past, and I will link to those in the show notes. But this is just 5 things that I think are really brilliant and really great ways of making sure that you get the most out of your time on Instagram. I think these days a lot of people are using Instagram. It's grown very, very quickly, so it's a very useful thing to be able to use and to make the most out of. So let's get on with it. My first tip is to remember that it's a visual medium. If you think about the way that you use Instagram, I don't know anybody who goes online on their desktop or laptop to look at Instagram. We always do it on our phones, and we tend to do it, I don't know about you, but I do it kind of at the bus stop or when I'm kind of stuck in a queue somewhere or something. Just very quickly I'll scroll through pictures, scroll. Yeah, I like that. I'll double tap that one. Scroll, you know. So you have to make sure that your pictures really stand out. So things like grainy images, you know, once in a while, if it's something really amazing that you needed to take a picture of, then fine, but try to post really good quality pictures. If you're going to take selfies, the front camera on your phone is actually really poor quality and it will most always produce a really grainy image. So it's worth kind of trying to find ways to take a selfie using the proper camera, either using a selfie stick or something similar. I have discovered recently something probably everybody already knows. If you plug in your headphones, your device headphones to your mobile and then prop the mobile up somewhere and stand further away, you can use the up button for the volume on your headphones to get the picture, to make it take a picture. So you can stand further away than your arms would normally allow. So that's usually a quite good one to use. If you can't fix the lighting on your picture, then try black and white. That tends to kind of iron out a few of those terrible errors or problems that you get with pictures. It's a good idea to kind of move around as well with how you're taking pictures. Don't just take one, because you're that height, take it at that height. Don't take it at eye level. Especially if you're taking pictures of children, really get down on the floor next to them and things. Or if you're taking pictures of food, then stand on a chair to get that extra height to make sure you get in the whole dish. Can be really handy. Kind of experiment with different perspectives of your picture. My second tip is to use a service called Iconosquare. Now this is infuriating purely because it only updates when you log in. So if you don't go to Iconosquare for a week, then you're not going to get daily stats. You're only going to get the stats for that time period in between. But if you can log in regularly, you get a wealth of information. You get your stats for engagement, so the percentage of posts that get likes and comments. It'll tell you the best times to post, the times that you've posted, you've had the most engagement, the best filters, the best tags to use, all of that kind of thing. Stuff that will really help you. If you really pay attention to that and utilise the stats that you're being given, you can really make a difference with that sort of things to your Instagram account. My third tip is a really simple one. It's to don't just use the filters. I don't know about you, but quite often if I'm Instagramming a picture, I'll take the picture, I'll go to Instagram, I'll maybe put a filter on it, usually the same 1 or 2 that I use every single time, and then upload it. But actually, if you ignore the filters and go to the little spanner icon on the right, there are loads of other things that you can do to adjust your picture before you put a filter on it. So you can change the brightness, the contrast, the warmth. You can put on a vignette. Things like that. Things like if there's a picture that you've taken that looks really good but there's a flash glare, you can use those tools to kind of remove that and draw it out so that you've still got a usable picture. It can be really useful in that respect. Really change the appearance of a picture so that something that you might have taken that you didn't think was really worth posting, wasn't any good, you can now change it into something that looks really good. And even if it means you're changing it to black and white or you're changing the appearance of it slightly, it's still a good picture that's worthy of posting. And you might find actually that if you kind of have more stylized images like that, you get more interaction on them because they look different than everything else in the newsfeed. My fourth point is a really simple one. It's to use the search function, but not to search for people specifically. If you just hit the little magnifying glass icon at the bottom of your screen, it will take you to a page of loads and loads of different pictures, and those pictures are all accounts that Instagram thinks you will like based on the photos you've liked recently. So it's worth bearing that in mind when you're liking pictures on Instagram. The Instagram will then show you pictures based on that. So don't like something just to be sociable to that person if you don't like the picture, because it will just screw up what Instagram shows you to want you to like. So the idea is then that you would go in and look at those and go, well, that's interesting, I'll follow that person, blah, blah. And not necessarily build your followers, but build who you're interacting with in the hope that they will then follow you back and that you can then build a relationship with them based on the fact that you clearly have something in common, or Instagram at least thinks you do, and that you maybe like similar pictures, similar things. My final point is another very simple one, but very effective. Point number 5 is to add your hashtags after you've posted. So I don't know about you, when I post a picture to Instagram, quite often I will also share it to my Facebook, to my Tumblr and to my Twitter. In fact, I actually have something set up with if this then that, so that when I post a picture to Instagram, it automatically posts as a native picture to Twitter rather than a link, which is fantastic. The only problem is the hashtags that you would use on Instagram are not necessarily ones that are going to translate very well to other social networks. Certainly Facebook and probably Twitter to a lesser extent. People don't really get the whole Instagram hashtag thing. On Instagram, it's perfectly usual to see a photo whose caption is entirely made up of hashtags and has 20 hashtags underneath. But on Facebook, it that turns me off and I don't like it. Especially when some people don't seem to have understood the concept of a hashtag and they just hashtag every single word. So hashtag yes, hashtag I, hashtag am. That makes no sense and it kind of winds me up a bit. So what I suggest you do is that you post your picture. It goes off to your social networks with the normal caption or something underneath. Here's me doing this, blah, blah. And then you go back to your Instagram picture and you edit it to add in your hashtags. Then you can be a lot more careful as well about what hashtags you're putting in. You can go and research it and everything and put in good hashtags that you want to use. Just an aside to this is the choice of hashtags. You might think it's great to choose a hashtag that has millions of uses. You know, when you go to add your hashtag and it brings up a list of suggestions and it tells you how many people have used them, you might think it's great to use one that's really, really popular. But just try this for a second. Go into your Instagram, go into search, and search for hashtag selfie, and it will bring you up a whole page of pictures where people have hashtagged selfie. Then reload your page and see if any of those pictures from the original one are still on there. They're not, because that one moves so quickly. So many people use hashtag selfie that actually, if you use that hashtag and you're hoping for people to find you through that hashtag, your post on that page on the search page there has a maximum lifespan of maybe 10-15 seconds before it's moved down and the next lot of selfies comes up. So try and think a bit more differently about which hashtags to use. Maybe selfie time or insta selfie or something a bit different. And for all the hashtags that you use, you want to use some that are being used and are active, so people are likely to search. But you don't want them that have got millions and millions of uses already, because you just won't be seen. It's much better to try for a much more of a niche kind of hashtag that's much more specific to what you're doing or what you're trying to get people to follow you for, if you see what I mean. And then hopefully that will help. And adding your hashtags afterwards hopefully avoids annoying people on other networks who follow you there and don't want to see all of your hashtags. So those were my top 5 tips for using Instagram. I do hope you've enjoyed them and found them interesting and useful. I would love to hear if you try any of them out, how you get on with them and whether you're able to increase either your followers or your engagement. That's something I'm really interested in. As I said before, you can find the show notes for this and other podcasts at vickycharles.com/podcast. You can follow me on Stitcher Radio or on Podcast Addict, and I am in the process of getting myself onto iTunes. In the meantime, I would love if you would follow me there, or you can follow me if you have a Spreaker account on there too. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll be back next week.